Well, welcome to Sophie Ridge on Saturday, and this morning there is, of course, just one main story after the attack on London Bridge yesterday. The attacker, 28-year-old Usman Khan, was a convicted terrorist who'd been released from prison on licence. He stabbed and killed two people, a man and a woman, and in the next hour we'll get full reaction to that, as well as wrapping up some of the other events from the last 7 days in the election campaign. But first, let's take you straight down to Westminster, where we could talk to the Mayor of London, Sadiq Khan. And a very good morning to you. I want to talk to you about the public response and the police response yesterday in just a moment. But first, can I ask you about this particular individual, a man on licence, released on licence, a man who may have been tagged, we're not sure. How on earth could this happen?
Well, firstly, there's a live investigation, so I've got to be very careful what I say, and I mustn't breach confidences. But I think the questions you're asking are questions that I'm asking as well. There are big questions that need to be answered because obviously it affects other people who may be a source of concern for many of us. I mean, I've been concerned for some time. I've said this publicly when I was a parliamentarian, forget when I was the mayor, that I think one of the important tools judges had when it came to dealing with dangerous convicted criminals, including convicted terrorists, was their ability to give an indeterminate sentence to protect the public was taken away from them by this government, and that's a concern that I've expressed before. And what that meant was that in the past a judge could say this person is so dangerous, he or she can't be released until he can prove to us he's no longer a danger to the public. And that's not there now, and that's a concern I've got. There's a second issue, which is when people are released on licence, does the Ministry of Justice, does the Probation Service have the powers and resources to properly supervise people who are clearly dangerous? And I think these questions will be asked about this individual to make sure we find out what happened here, but also there are wide lessons as well.
Yeah, I would say if we move it away from that individual for obvious reasons, when someone has been convicted of a terror attack and they are released on licence, without having to go, I mean, should it be automatic, do you think, that someone under those circumstances convicted of such a crime should actually have to go before the parole board before getting released?
Yeah, I don't think that it's right that somebody who's convicted of a serious offence like what this man was convicted of should be automatically released. In fact, I was somebody who voted against the government getting rid of the IPP sentence. I think it's really important for judges to have all the tools at their disposal. They're the people that have heard the evidence. But I've to find out what happened in this particular case. But also, I believe, of course, people need to be released if they've been rehabilitated, but they need to be properly supervised with a system that is effective, that has the proper resources. And that's how you keep the public confident that the authorities are doing all that they can to keep us safe.
Are you comfortable that the threat level was reduced just a week or so ago?
I am. We've got a fantastic system in our country where politicians don't interfere with the Joint Terrorism Analysis Centre, who do the expert analysis about threat levels arising from international terrorism. And just to reassure your viewers, the threat level used to be severe, which means an attack is highly likely. It was changed to substantial, which means an attack is likely. As far as the police are concerned, the security service are concerned, in my experience as the mayor, nothing changed. The vigilance was still there. The what you call posture from the police and the security services was still there. And so I'm assured that there's no reason for us to be troubled by that. And just to reassure your viewers, Londoners or others come into London over the course of the next few days, they will see Met Police Service officers, City of London officers, British Transport Police officers armed. Some wearing uniform, some plain clothes. They're there not because there's been an increased threat or because of heightened security. They're there for reassurance and just to make us all feel comfortable going about our city, doing our Christmas shopping or enjoying the bars and restaurants.
Can I ask you about the police response yesterday? Again, as you said earlier on, it's slightly difficult. There are various investigations underway and the automatic investigation into someone when they fire a firearm. But what's your general impression of the response from the emergency services yesterday?
Look, yesterday we saw one example of the worst of humanity. This man was a terrorist, a criminal, and the worst of us. We also saw the best of us. We saw Londoners, ordinary citizens, acting in an extraordinary way. People who should be following the advice and running away for their own safety, people who should be fleeing from danger, doing the opposite, running towards danger. And by the way, hindsight's a wonderful thing. They didn't know that the vest he had around him with explosives was a hoax. What they saw was a man with two knives, one very big knife. They ran towards him to stop him causing further harm and damage to other people, risking their personal safety. That's ordinary people without any weapons, and I'm in awe of them. And I think over the course of the next few days and weeks, they need to be properly recognised for their bravery. The second point, though, is you're right to raise the issue of our police officers, and I'm in awe of our police, because I see on a daily basis that police officers go to work, and unlike you and me, when they go to work, they know that there's a possibility that their personal injury will be jeopardised, their life will be jeopardised. And I'll tell you this, the armed response officers who turned up almost immediately were confronted with a man who appeared to have a suicide vest on him. They didn't run away. They didn't make sure that, they were safe. They took him out to make sure he wasn't able to cause further damage and injury to others. And again, I want to pay tribute to the police officers there. It's really important we do so. Split-second decisions are made to try and keep us safe, and they made the right call as far as I'm concerned.
Of course, the Metropolitan Police are going to be asking about the level of support in the wake of this that they get. What can you tell them about that? And as you say, with the extra number of officers on the streets providing reassurance, as you say, but obviously there is going to be concern about the possibility of people getting ideas from this, and obviously Christmas is always a slightly concerning time. They're going to want more support from you, aren't they?
And they deserve more support from not just me, but from the government. From City Hall, we're doing all that we can to support our fantastic police. They're under-resourced and overstretched. I've been saying for 3.5 years that the cuts from central government have gone way too far, and cuts have consequences. We need to make sure that we have more support for our police, counter-terror team and others, also the Ministry of Justice, and we need to make sure we prevent crime occurring in the first place. What I can say to Londoners and visitors is, as far as we're concerned, we're not going to allow this terrorist to disrupt our way of life. We're not going to allow him to spoil Christmas. We're not going to allow him to affect our businesses in London. The good news is last night, in and around London Bridge and central London, you had people enjoying the bars, the restaurants, the sights and sounds of our city. I'm hoping many people will come to central London today to shop for Christmas. We've got to make sure that we gender a confidence. Our stoicism is on display. We are resilient. We're not going to allow this terrorist and anybody else to not just divide our communities, but to stop us leading our lives.
Is there a concern that, we almost have a reliance, don't we, on intelligence? It's one of those things that goes on and we don't really think about until someone tells us that 15 attacks were prevented in the previous year, whatever that figure may be. Are we in a position now where these isolated incidents, and let's hope they are isolated, have to be expected in major cities in this country?
Really important question. So what we do know from the security advice is that a number of cities around the world are targets for terrorists. The phrase used by experts in 2017 is still relevant today. It wasn't a spike in relation to terror attempts, terror attacks. It's a shift in the attitude of terrorists to try and cause terror and cause damage. Since the 4 attacks in 2017, there have been 24 attacks thwarted, some from so-called Islamist terrorists, some from so-called far-right extremists. That's 24 attacks thwarted. And the police, the security services work incredibly hard. One of the main reasons they're able to thwart attacks is because of the intelligence provided by members of the public. And that's why it's really important that the public has confidence in the police. And one of the things that I'm keen to get across is policing is all linked. It's not counter-terror here and neighbourhood police in there, and they're separate. It's all linked. And that's why it's really important that we support our police, not just in terms of the resources they need to have a decent number of officers and the resources that goes with that, but also we, members of the public, help the police. So my message to the public is, 1, be vigilant. If you see anything at all that is suspicious, err on the side of caution and report it to the police. I'd rather you over-report than under-report. But secondly, let's make sure we go about our business and don't allow the terrorists to disrupt our way of life.
Well, you pointed out what members of the public did yesterday, which was hugely brave, no two ways about it. And indeed, getting out on the streets of London last night is in itself a sort of act of defiance, a very positive move. We're living in such a divided time at the moment, divided over Brexit, divided over Europe, divided over the general election campaign at the moment. What can someone like you, as a figurehead, I mean, admittedly with your party political allegiances, but still as a figurehead, what can you do and what do you need to do to actually bring the people of the capital of this country together?
Well, firstly, we've got to remind ourselves why we're a target. Why does a man like this want to attack us? It's because he hates the fact that we're pluralistic. We don't just tolerate each other, we respect and celebrate and embrace each other. He hates the fact that you've got Muslims, Christians, Jews, rich, poor, Sikhs, Buddhists, those members of an organised faith, those that aren't, members of the LGBT plus community, all getting on together really well. They hate that. And what we're going to do is make sure we remind ourselves we're a beacon for the rest of the world. We celebrate our civil liberties, we have human rights, and they hate that. And it's really important that we, are confident. We have the right posture and body language to show, you know what, we're not going to allow you to get us down. And, my good friend, who unfortunately is no longer with us, Jo Cox, said in her maiden speech, there is far more that unites us than divides us. And events like yesterday should remind us of that. And, of course, the focus of rightly is going to be on this terrorist and to learn the right lessons. But I'm keen to focus on also the wonderful and the best of us, that was the bravery of those ordinary Londoners who did extraordinary things. That's what we should be celebrated. And I'm hoping over the course of the next few days and weeks leading up to Christmas, people come to London. If you're not a Londoner, come to London, come and shop in our shops, come to our bars and our restaurants. Borough Market, round the corner from London Bridge, you know it very well, has been affected not just by yesterday, but also in 2017. They're struggling as businesses go. Come and support them. That's the best way for us to be resilient and stoic and to show these terrorists they will never win.